Okay.
I was in a meeting one.
All right, we'd like to welcome you out. We appreciate these guys that we're putting under pressure trying to get the mics working. So thank you for coming, and we'll call this meeting to order. Our first order of business would be approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a first by Blaine and second by Norm. And maybe if you'll pull your mics down where these recordings aren't going really well, and those of you down there, when you come up, if you'd speak into the microphones so it can be recorded, we would appreciate it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll go into our special items reports. Invite Cluff Ward Pipeline if they'd come forward. We have Daniel Moore, or Douglas Moore, Tamara Moore, and Tracy Allen.
Tamara's going to keep their seats warm.
Oh, all right.
You ready?
Eddie.
Got that one okay? There we go.
Talk loud. You're not picking up.
Me talk loud?
Uh-huh.
You need to ask?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's a compliment. Mr. Chairman and more members of the board, this is for the Cluff Ward Pipeline Company. As you see on the map here, the existing lines and existing tanks in blue, and then we have the proposed pipeline and the proposed tank in red.
No maps.
Okay.
In your board pack.
In your board file.
The old-fashioned way, newspaper.
Hard copy. There
We're
you
looking.
go.
Keep it going.
I'll wait till you find your map.
Oh,
You look-
we got the map. There.
There's a map. There's a song about that.
Risa.
Okay, so this is, yes. Closer. Okay. So the project is located about 1 mile east of Colville in Summit County. As I was saying, the blue lines and tanks, the squares are the locations of the existing system. The red is the proposed pipeline, and the red circles the proposed water tank. The sponsor serves culinary water for indoor use to 84 active connections, and build out for the service area is expected to be 119 connections. The sponsor system consists of 2 springs and a 75,000 and a 17,000 gallon tank for a total of 92,000 gallons of storage. But drinking water, the Division of Drinking Water storage requirement is for 150,000 gallons presently, and will be 167,000 gallons of storage at build out. So the sponsor's requesting financial assistance from the board to build a 100,000 gallon storage tank and associated piping to update its storage capacity. The project will help the sponsor provide adequate infrastructure to serve all current and future connections to the system and meet any fire code requirements. And just show you a quick picture. This is the tank site. We're standing right on it. Just below it is where a house is also going in. Part of the reason they need to get a tank a little bit higher elevated, but that is the valley and the part of their system there going through this area just east of Colville. So the recommended cost sharing and repayment are for the Board of Water Resources at 85% or $391,000, and the sponsor for $69,000, about 15% of the project, for a total of $460,000. And they are asking for committal of funds today. They are hoping to get construction started here before the snow flies, hopefully. And so if the board authorizes and commits funds to the project, it's suggested to be purchased at 0% interest over approximately 10 years with annual payments of $39,100. And that is staff's report.
Thank you. Any comments from either of you?
Well, we just appreciate your consideration. We appreciate your consideration of our project, and we've had the opportunity to be funded through your agency prior to, and we're very pleased with the outcome, and hope that we can do business again.
Thank you. All right, we got a first and second down there. How about from up here, Dave?
Wasn't there some questions about metering or something?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Tracy, look at drinking water or water quality for this loan where you might get a grant as well.
Yeah, we did, and their terms weren't as good, and they also, a lot of their upfront work didn't meet the timing that Doug was interested in
Okay.
the company.
So you did approach them and,
Yes.
because that could have saved you some money.
That's correct, yeah, and rural development as well, so.
Do you meter the water now?
We do.
And so all the connection will have a meter on it?
All connections
Okay.
are metered.
And the 19 connections, they're owned by individuals, not one person owns all 19?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Any other questions?
I've got one. Doug, there was some discussion with staff apparently about an ordinance restricting outdoor water use to a certain time of day type of thing. Apparently that was didn't appear to be feasible because the water was irrigation water. The secondary water was thought
Yeah,
to be irrigation water.
secondary water provided to, not all, but 99% of our, I think there's 7 connections on the line that don't have access to secondary water. The way we encourage that people use secondary instead of culinary is through our rate structure. So we charge $1 a thousand gallons for the first 6,000 gallons, and we go to $2 a thousand for any water used over 6,000 gallons. And you find the difference is someone with secondary, average monthly bill's around $17. If they don't have secondary, their bill can be anywhere from $45 to $160 a month.
Okay. So for those 7 or so that don't have the irrigation water available to them, could that time of day ordinance be put in place?
We don't have any control over secondary. We could put an ordinance in for those individuals. You know, we haven't done, but we are working presently with the engineers to draft up an ordinance that our board can put into effect, that we limit the watering between certain hours.
Yeah, for the 7 or
Yes.
so. Okay, that's exactly what I was wondering about. So
Yes.
you're good with that?
Yes.
And working on that? Okay.
We'll work to get that as a goal and a task in their updated water conservation plan that
Okay.
we're working on
Okay,
right now.
very
so.
good. Thank you.
There was another question about the other connections that use secondary, whether or not they have a culinary access outside, and Doug says they do not. Correct? They don't have a culinary tap outside to be able to, the other,
You mean a secondary? Yeah.
those that use secondary outdoors, can they use culinary outdoors?
Yes, they can.
Oh, they can, okay.
Yes.
Okay, they can. So that ordinance then could cover everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me. If there's no other questions, then, if the board authorizes and commits the funds to this project out of the revolving construction fund, it suggested that it be purchased at 0% interest over approximately 10 years with annual payments of $39,100.
Second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin. We have Robin Bradshaw of Beaver City. Russ, so we'll turn the time to you.
Okay, Chairman Lemon, members of the board. Beaver City's secondary lawn and garden system is supplied by the Mammoth Canal located above the city. There's numerous safety concerns about the canal diversion structure, which will be remedied by construction of this project to install an improved diversion structure, sluicing structure, and make improvements to the canal overflow system. Just a little reminder, this is what they're looking at. They've got their 15-acre-foot head pond on the side of the hill and a huge amount of overflow from that Mammoth Canal coming down the side of their head pond. Here's looking up at it. You can see just a whole lot of water that comes down this overflow. There's a little. Here we go. Just no, you can't hear it. Well, the sound there is not coming in, but it's a lot of water. The project was bid in September, and bids for the project came in higher than expected. The project cost estimate has increased by $150,000, bringing the total project cost from $370,000 to $520,000. The committed and proposed cost estimate and sharing are as follows. The committed cost sharing, $370,000 total. Proposed cost sharing at $520,000, with the board providing 85% of funding in both scenarios. So the board is being asked for $442,000 of the $520,000. If the board commits an additional $127,000 to the project, it is proposed the bonded indebtedness of $442,000 be returned over 15 years at 0% interest with annual payments of approximately $32,000, including reserves. And that is staff's report.
Thank you. Any questions?
You have anything else?
You know, I just want to thank the board and this organization for what they do for the people. I think back in 1982, we came to this board and asked for funds for a pressurized irrigation system through the Harris Willis Irrigation Company. And we were awarded $280,000. We put in 12 miles of pipe. We paid that back at $25,000 a year. And without a board like this or an agency, that wouldn't be available. That we couldn't have done it. And then I turn around and think about Beaver City about 6 years later, came and asked for money to put in a pressurized irrigation system. And, you know, it's a great thing for our community. This is an organization and an agency that works because the money is landed out, it's paid back, it's rolled over for the next guy to use. And you know what? This is a good thing. And I thank you guys.
Thank you. Are there any questions up here?
I've got questions for you. Wasn't that long ago that you got approval for the project and you had your engineering estimates, and we understand that, you know, things change, you know, working on the hillside's a little bit tougher and all that. Is this your final, how firm is this current one you've got? Are you going to be back here in another month or two?
Oh, no, we got a contractor that's ready to go to work.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the bid has been awarded with subject to funding, and he's ready to go to work.
This is an actual bid now then?
Yes. Yeah, it better not go up anymore. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that the board commit an additional $127,000 to the projects, and that the proposed bonded indebtedness of $442,000 be returned over 15 years at 0% interest, with annual payments of approximately $32,000, including reserves.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. I think we're good to go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the board.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay, Daniel Irrigation. We have Hugh Barker Doug Crittenden, Phil Thacker, and Ryan Taylor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Daniel Irrigation Company collects water from Daniels Canyon just south of Heber City and delivers it to over 1,800 acres of land for agricultural use through a network of pressurized pipe and open canal. With their primary water right dating back to 1879, the Daniel Irrigation Company has been in operation for well over 100 years. The company has worked over the years installing approximately 20 miles of buried pressurized irrigation pipe, and there are only about 1.3 miles of open canal remaining in the distribution network, and that is shown in the figure here in the red line. Liability of the canal company has increased in the recent past as areas below the canal have been developed for residential purposes. The canal company seeks funds to facilitate the piping of the remaining 1.3 miles of open canal. This project will reduce seepage and evaporation losses while decreasing operation and maintenance expenses and enhancing public safety. In June 2015, the board authorized and committed funds to pipe the remaining 1.3 miles of open canal. However, the sponsor received word in September 2015 that it would be receiving a WaterSmart grant to assist with the project. The NEPA study and the subsequent mitigation measures required for approval and use of federal funds caused the project to be delayed until the present time. Due to increases in material costs and the addition of consulting fees associated with the NEPA study, the sponsor is requesting additional funds from the board. If the board commits an additional $177,115 to the project, for a total of $417,115. It is suggested it be purchased at 0% interest over 25 years with annual payments of approximately $16,700. This is staff's report.
Thank you. Any comments from any of you or anything you'd like to say?
We'd like to thank the board for having us come back and for additional funds if it's possible. I think it's going to be a great project to help the Daniels water users up there, and it'll also help the Jordanelle not have to pump so much water to us because we won't lose so much through the ground. So, and again, thanks for your time for reconsidering additional funds.
Thank you for being here. Anything else?
I'll just add to head off the next question. These are our bid numbers this time, so there's a contract that's been awarded pending funding. So we don't anticipate being back next month.
All right, any questions from the board?
Chairman, seeing no questions, I'll make the motion. We authorize the additional $177,115 project, and it's suggested that be 0% interest for 25 years, and the annual payment approximately $6,700.
Okay, have a second by Blaine. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, very good, thanks.
The next item we have is a withdrawal, and I believe Mr. Pollack was going to take that one. Stu?
Mr. Chairman, the Herriman City has gone ahead and built this project using financing from other places. So they want to withdraw the project. I move we withdraw it from our program.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Gayman? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Washington County.
Flood control?
Like we have Mike Shaw and Lester Dalton. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, This is for the Washington County Flood Control Authority for the Gypsum Dam debris basin. This is a map. Let me see if does the arrow work on this. Yep, a little bit. Way over here on the right. This is the existing debris basin right here. And we'll talk about this. There are two areas right here that you see that those are proposed residential development. And we'll talk a little bit about that. The sponsor was formed in 2011 by Washington County, Washington City, St. George City, and Santa Clara to provide funding for all four entities for flood control measures along the river and for regional flood control facilities. The sponsor maintains 3 flood control debris basins, Gypsum, Warner Draw, and Stookie, and there's plans currently underway to rehabilitate all 3 dams with help from the NRCS to bring them to dam safety standards. The NRCS has committed funding of 65% of the cost of construction to upgrade these dams, as well as 100% of the engineering costs. The Gypsum Debris Basin was constructed in 1975 for flood prevention and sediment retention, but flood prevention of what you can see is farm fields in here, all through in here. But as you can see, you've got development down here, encroaching development over here, and now immediately below. And this hatched area in here is what the expected flood extents would be if there were a breach in this debris basin. So when it was originally built, it was a moderate hazard dam just for the farmland. However, due to all this recent development, it is now rated a high hazard dam. Additionally, and then we talk about because of those also additional residential developments going in. To bring the dam up to state dam safety standards, rehabilitation will include replacing the dam tow drain, slip lining the 24-inch outlet pipe, and excavating accumulated sediment near the outlet riser structures. And let me show you a picture. It's a little bit hard to see. This is actually inside the debris basin itself. Trying to see where my arrow is. There he is. This right here, the lighter, that is the dam. This is a riser right here, and another riser right here. I thought I had another photo closer up, but I don't. I didn't put it in. I apologize for that. And you can see some of the sediment buildup. And then this is now on the outside, leading up to the dam. Here's the dam running along here, and there you see right there a house going in quite close, and that's where all of that development's going in. So the recommended cost sharing are for the NRCS to provide a grant of $503,750 or 65% of the cost. The Board of Water Resources, a dam safety grant, $244,125 or 31.5%. And then the sponsor's going to come up with the remaining $27,125, 3.5%. So if the board commits dam safety funds to the project, it's proposed to extend a grant of $244,125 to the sponsor. And that is staff's report.
Thank you. Anything from either one of you two?
Just like to say thank you for your consideration and be happy to answer any questions you've got.
Okay, is there any questions from the board?
So you say you've got 3 of these similar structures. This is just for one of them, for the gypsum one.
That's correct. That's for the
Do you have
construction.
funding in place for the others, or are you looking, what time frame you looking for the others?
Right now, it's proposed that this one will be going out to bid in December to begin construction in January. Our anticipation is that the other 2 will be at the same state this one is sometime in the spring. We're anticipating March, April, somewhere in there.
Any other questions?
Yes. With all this new development, are you allowing the development to put their runoff into these debris basins?
Our policy on new development runoff is that they will detain all the difference between pre and post developed flows. So any of the development that comes in, currently we don't have anything that's upstream of these basins. All the development's downstream. In the future, they will be moving upstream, but we'll have the same policy at that time that they'll be required to detain the difference.
You're just taking care of the natural flow.
Correct.
Are there any building codes that deal with building subdivisions right below these structures or anything?
Yes and no.
Kind of what everything breaks down to is the property rights that are associated with that private property directly below it. That's part of the reason that these are getting moved up to a high hazard facility. They're looked at more in depth to verify that the proper precautions are taken rather than the current moderate standing that they have. And the rehab that we're doing will be to the high hazard standards.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that the board come out of the dam safety fund for this project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a second by Galen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We have a few other names that are not part of what is going on as a project, but we want to welcome Doug Neben, O'Neill, Bryant Jacobs, and Paul Blanchard. And if there's anyone else that's come in that I can't see through the pillar, we welcome you also. We have staff here and we appreciate them being here also. Okay, next is our cloud seeding project. Candace?
Mr. Chairman of the board and board members, thanks for having me here this afternoon. I'm here to report on Utah's cloud seeding activities for last year, as well as the ones proposed for this year. So we have our 5 projects that we've typically run. Anywhere between 13 and 39 years we've run these various projects. In the green is the Central and Southern Utah project, and in the blue we have the High Uintas. The pink color is the Western Uintas, which contributes to the Wasatch Front. Also in this green over here is the Tooele area, and then our Northern Utah project area. And then we also have a smaller, in Emery and Sanpete County, propane cloud seeding project. Here you can see we have 144 generators that were operated last year. You can kind of see how they're dispersed throughout this project areas. We also had 3 icing rate meters that assist in our contractors' cloud seeding efforts to give them information on the best timing to cloud seed across, through the state. We have one at Bryan Head, one on Skyline Drive, and the one on Dryer Ridge as well. So I had the opportunity to present to the Division of Water Rights and talked my contractor into coming down and giving them a demonstration on a manual cloud seeding generator. So I thought you would be interested. And I'm hoping the sound doesn't work because it was a really windy day and that's all you would hear. So this is Henry. This is one of their operators and also maintains the equipment in the southern and central project area. So this is a typical silver iodide cloud seeding generator. They're all manually run. So it has the windshield up above. The initial thing they do is they turn on propane and they send up propane through it. And then he's got a little striker there, so he's turning on the propane. Then he'll strike up there by the flame after he puts his hand in the top, which I was like, oh, that's a little nerve-wracking. He's also demonstrating and talking a lot, so it takes just a moment for him to get to it. I was a little worried when he started doing that, but he does pull his hand out, and so then he's going to go ahead and strike the propane that he has going, and that's the propane burning you see there. And they typically do that to clear their lines, so they'll do that prior to the silver iodide, and then after, before they turn it off, they'll run the propane to clear the line of the silver iodide. And then he's going to go over there, and there's a little switch that he pulls down that starts up the silver iodide, and you'll see the flame turn a bright orange color. And so that's when he's actually flipped the switch. I wish we could hear him talking, because it was very informative. And so there it goes. So that's the silver iodide being released. It releases about 8 grams per hour. So it is a fairly small amount, but has a significant effect. And then he's pointing at, they get that, you can't really see it, but right in the center there's a little black bottle or a little black dot, and they try to get that in the center to show. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I'd never seen it, so I thought it was interesting, so I wanted to share it with you. And then just to go over the results, so our contractor does a target and control analysis to estimate the results of the cloud seeding activities. So each of the project areas, you can see the number of generators in each area, so it totals to the 144, and the various seasons which they've been seeding. So like I said, Central and Southern Utah has 39 years, which is our longest going program, and the High Uintas are our newer program at 13 years. And then on the precipitation increase, so this is the estimated precipitation increase due to cloud seeding from your December through March time period. So that they estimate an 11% increase in that precipitation. And then they estimate the April 1st snow water equivalent increase is about 4%. So they think it's a little higher, but because of early snow melt, the data doesn't show that. But I just reported the numbers that they reported to us. Here are the actual costs for the projects. The total for the entire projects was $463,884. We do a 50% cost share. So the state has typically about the $300,000 that they contribute, up to $300,000, and at the 50%. And then you can see the local sponsors. All of our projects have local sponsors that help to fund the projects. You can see those listed there. For next year, they're estimating, they kind of make the budget or their estimate a little high because they don't want their cloud seeding efforts limited by the number of generator hours they put in. So they are estimating the total project cost at $547,535. The board would then sponsor $273,768. And I also wanted to report on the lower Colorado River Basin. In 2007, we started receiving funds from the lower basin states, including Central Arizona Water Conservancy District, 6th Agency Committee, and the Southern Nevada Water Authority to help extend our cloud seeding season in the Colorado River Basin. So these are the generators that they target to contribute to the Colorado River Basin. So pretty much anything that they think will go into Lake Mead or Lake Powell. It's the general. And here's just a summary of their extension program. So for the southern and central portion of the state, they extend that program from November 1st to the November 15th, and then on the tail end of the season, March 15th to April 15th. They also extend the whole month of November in the High Uinta project, and they purchase extra propane for the Emery County project. They are also the funders of the 3 icing rate meters. And last year they did do a feasibility study, which is almost complete in the Abajo and LaSalle area to see of the potential of seeding in that area. Here is the costs that they paid last year for those different projects. So these are all funded by the lower basin states. So $165,000 total. And then for next year, we have proposed to do the same thing. I have one board in California who's already approved it. Still waiting on Southern Nevada Water Authority and Arizona, but they're extending it the normal season, and including the icing rate meters. One of the questions we had is, well, we've done this feasibility study, what next? And our contractor recommended leasing a microwave radiometer, which pretty much measures the column of water above. So where an icing rate meter measures just a point measurement, it kind of gets a holistic view of the atmosphere to know where the water that they're targeting is. So I recommend that the Utah Board of Water Resources commit up to $150,000 for the 2016-2017 operational cloud seeding program with a maximum cost share of 50% with the local sponsors. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I wasn't sure I understand what that icing rate meter is. What does that tells you? What percentage is where that you're shooting at?
Sure. So let's take one step back. So the whole, in cloud seeding, what they're trying to do is to identify where this super cooled water is. So it's cold water that is at freezing temperatures or below, but it hasn't frozen yet. So that's the water that they're looking for in the clouds. And so what the icing rate meter does is it has a bunch of functionality, including wind speed and temperature, but then it also has a little metal rod that sticks up and collects ice. It vibrates at a certain frequency and collects ice from the super cooled water. So it gives the super cooled water something to attract to, and so it freezes on this little rod, and then after a certain amount of time of buildup, it'll warm up, melt the ice, and then start the process over again. So it gives them information on if the super cooled water is available in the atmosphere at that point. So the radiometer then would look at it, rather than just having one point, it's looking at this whole column, and it can tell you exactly what elevation to target. So it's a pretty valuable tool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have one. How much area did one generator cover?
Good question. They say that it goes in the way the plume goes is it moves in about a 15-degree point away from the generator. So if you kind of think of that 15 degrees, so the farther it gets from the generator, the more area it covers. So they estimate that they need one if they're targeting an area heavily, they want one, I believe, every 15 to 20 miles, if I remember correctly. So, but then the plume, what you're trying to do is get that orographic lift to get up over the mountains, because that's really what we're targeting. Ours is a winter cloud seeding program, obviously, to increase our snowpack.
The general technology is the silver iodide. You mentioned that Emery County and Sanpete County are trying an alternate technology just with propane generators. What's the comparison? Has there been any studies which is more effective, which is more cost effective, or anything like that?
Sure. So in 1992-93 time period, the division as well as the Bureau and Emery County did a study to estimate just that question. They found that propane is really good for smaller areas where you're targeting a smaller area, and it also, you can seed at a higher temperature. So typically with silver iodide, you seed between -5 degrees Celsius and -10 degrees Celsius, so you're below 28 degrees Fahrenheit. With the propane, you can seed at a little warmer temperature between, I believe it was -3 degrees Celsius and -5 degrees Celsius, so above that 28 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So,
Chairman, Candace, what is the radiometer? Is it going to be more valuable than the icing rate monitor? More cost effective?
The radiometer does give quite a bit more information. It is more expensive. So in the past, you can see on your screen here, the icing rate meter. We have 3 of those installed, and the cost is about $51,000. That includes the data analysis, the equipment, setup and takedown. And so we have 3 of those, and to lease a radiometer, it's about one radiometer, it's about $55,000 to include the reporting and the takedown and everything. So they are more expensive. They do give a lot more information. The cost to purchase one is about $180,000. So we've proposed leasing one this year, but it may be something that we want to look into so we can have a more effective cloud seeding program.
That are operated by the contractor, not by Water Resources?
Yes, they are operated by the contractor.
And based on your map, it looks like the icing rate monitors are more in central and southern Utah, not in northern. Is there
They currently are. I'm not sure those have been established in those locations for quite a while. And they're probably in that location most likely because the lower basin states are the ones paying for them. So.
Yeah, cuts me out.
Well.
Thank you.
Maybe that's something we can talk to some of the other projects, local sponsors about, getting better data in their area.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd move that the Board of Water Resources commit up to $150,000 from the revolving construction fund, 2016-17 operational cloud seeding program, with the maximum state cost share of 50% with local sponsors.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Very good presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank Candace, and came out last Tuesday to our board and put on a presentation on cloud seeding. It was very good and well received, and helped with some of our board members that had questions about this. So we appreciate Candace making that effort to come out.
All right, thank you. Joe?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate this opportunity to update the board on the Lake Powell Pipeline project. We had a tour last month, the 20th and 21st of September, with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, as well as their environmental consultant, who they've brought on to help carry the project through the National Environmental Policy Act process. Lewis Berger is the name of that consultant, and so they had some folks from that firm out for this tour. We had representatives from the BLM, from Bureau of Reclamation, and from the public as well, and it was a good tour following the alignment of the pipeline. We had some good rain both of those days, so there were some of the dirt roads that were inaccessible due to the rain, but it was a good tour, and I think those that were able to attend came away benefiting from that and learning more about the project and the terrain that it's going to go through. We are currently preparing the response to FERC's additional information request. We filed the license application back in early May, and then towards the end of July they submitted to us a request for additional information as they looked at the report and said, it looks like we need some more information on these topics. So and they gave us 90 days to prepare that, and so that'll be due October 24th. And so at this point, we're reviewing the responses that have been prepared, and we'll get ready to submit those by that deadline. The other work that's going on is for the Cultural Resources Report that has been ongoing, and the hope is to have that mostly finished by the end of November, where we would submit that to the lead archaeologist with the BLM, and then there would be a several months process of that cultural resources report being reviewed by BLM, by the State Historic Preservation Offices of Utah and Arizona, public and tribes, to get that ready for a final submittal to FERC by late 2017. And so that's essentially the last outstanding item as far as the information that we need to get to FERC before they can take all of this material that we've given them, which they consider reference material as they go in to prepare the environmental impact statement. And so we're looking forward to that, the completion of that report to feel like, hey, we've gotten all the information that we need to FERC so that they can start their review and their process. So this is staff's report on the Lake Powell pipeline. Any questions? Thank you.
Questions? Director Millis, would you like to tell us about Joel's job, since this is a change some may not know about?
Pleased to. Some of you may know, well, it's obvious Bill Leaflang's not here with us today. He retired a couple weeks ago, and we opened up that position and had a number of just excellent candidates for that position. Joel Williams was selected to be the new assistant director here in the division.
Thank you. And thank you, Joel. And congratulations. Okay, water use and conservation report.
Chair and members of the board, since we last met, I don't think 2 meetings ago when we had you all take the WaterWise pledge and the H2 Oath, we have sponsored another competition with the H2 Oath between the universities, kind of get a water war, some sort of thing going between universities. We put out a public information notice at the end of September, and it's going to run till October 15th. And the school that wins, we're going to offer a scholarship to their water conservation program at their university. And I'm not biased or anything, but Utah State's in the lead, and go Aggies, which is good. We've got Weber State University and Dixie State that are responding very well with their students and their followers of those universities. So that's a neat thing. We've had almost another 1,000 pledges take place in those 13 days so far. So pretty awesome. As far as our water use and water conservation report, we're in the process of documenting the per capita water use and the water data collection process. I reported to the Water Development Commission last month about the collection process. About half of the entities that submitted their water had some sort of issue. We've contacted them. We still had about 10% of the population in the state that hadn't responded. We're working towards them. We have about half of those data collected. The water use numbers look like they're going to be down. We're in the process of documenting that. We will then turn it over to a process in Senate Bill 251, where we'll have an independent review of the data and our methodologies, set some new water conservation goals, do a few other things. Eric Millis and Stu Pollock will be presenting to the Water Development Commission, as well as the Natural Resources, Ag, and Environment Interim Committee next week, on results or the process we're making. The Water Development Commission at the last meeting set a subcommittee meeting together, and we'll work towards drafting a final draft of the RFPs to hire an independent contractor to go through and look at that information that's out there. That's what I have to report, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
God, appreciate that. All right, Director Millis.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I've had quite a few things that have gone on since the last board meeting, and you've heard about a number of those things today, and so I won't repeat those. But one of the things that's been good is we got some extra rain. And when I say extra, we got in September considerably more over most of the state than we would normally have received, and actually for most of the state found ourselves, at least precipitation-wise, above normal. This area of the state here in the northern part didn't do quite so well, but still good. And we're in a new water year now. We're hoping this will be a good one, and that we get a lot of snow this winter. We are in the process of working through our budget for 2018. Those things will be submitted to the governor's office and to the legislature soon. One of the things that we're asking for is some additional money for water conservation to help with the programs that are out there already, and also help get some seed money out there for some rebate programs, and help strengthen some of the rebate programs that are out there, so that we can help strengthen our water conservation efforts throughout the state. Not just ours, but the local water suppliers and the local communities also. I think the public is responding very well, as Todd noted about the H2 Auth program. I think there's some good energy right now that's pushing that all ahead. We've got, as far as the Colorado River goes, we've got the System Conservation Pilot Program that some of you have heard about. I've talked about it a little bit before. That is one of the precursors to one of our drought contingency planning efforts. On the Colorado River, we're looking at the effects of a continued drought. We continue to look at that and how we could mitigate that. And one of the things that we're looking at is additional cloud seeding. As Candace noted in her presentation, the Lower Basin is putting money into cloud seeding. Of course, they're doing that to help themselves, but in the process it helps all of us because that water doesn't necessarily have their name on it. It helps the entire system, and so that's one of the efforts. The other effort would be, operation of the CRSP reservoirs, more like they were designed, and would look at doing that only as needed in order to help keep levels at Lake Powell up, which are important. But what I'm getting to now is the third leg of the demand management, or the drought contingency planning, which is demand management. And the System Conservation Pilot Project gives us an opportunity to look at ways that we could help in a dry year curtail some uses in some places voluntarily on a willing seller, willing buyer type of basis. And so this System Conservation Pilot Program, which has been going for a couple of years, will continue for one more year. There's a request for proposals out there right now asking for interest in additional projects. It's not a whole lot of money that's involved, but of course this would be Norm and Gaywin's areas that we're talking about. But something that is out there and we think would be helpful. So if you guys know of anybody that's interested in something like that, or where you might see there's some potential, that would be good. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything more. We do have a slideshow on one of the recently done projects if you would like to see that.
Okay. I think, Joel, were you doing that, or
Tom?
Who is? Oh, Tom? Okay.
Probably go faster. There's been kind of a joke in my family lately that I like to take a lot of pictures. And so whenever we go out on a family outing, they give me a 200 photo limit. So I try to cut down the photos on this, but we will see how it goes. So the project that have chosen to do or talk about today is it's a diversion structure on the Spanish Fork River. It diverts water into the Mill Race Canal. And Steve, I remember you went to the open house when it was finished. So there are 4 different entities that obtain water either from the canal or or their water is measured at that point in the river. The Westfield Irrigation Company, which was the sponsor of the project because they had the most shares in the diversion, the Spanish Fork Southeast Irrigation Company, and the Lakeshore Irrigation Company, as well as Spanish Fork City. So the diversion structure is located southeast of Spanish Fork on the Spanish Fork River. It's right adjacent to their golf course they have in that area if you've been down there. It was constructed during the winter of 2014-2015 with a final cost sharing of the board providing 85% of the total project cost, which amounted to be almost $930,000, and that's being paid off at 1% interest over 30 years. So the original structure was built in the 1920s, and the years and the flood events had taken a toll on the structure. This is looking downstream and looking upstream. On a little closer view, you can see where the concrete has been broken away, and down here you see rebar exposed, and you see some rubble that's been placed in there to actually add some stability to the structure so it didn't wash away. And just to the left of that that's the entrance to the Millrace Canal. And you can see a number of the gates there. Several of them didn't work, so they put in a newer one so they would actually have one gate that they could regulate the flow into the canal. And it's an important place because they measured the flow of the Spanish Fork River there, and so not only can they measure what they divert at this point, but also the water that passes for the irrigation companies that are downstream. This was a little later when the old structure was actually taken out, and the Spanish Fork River was diverted through the Millrace Canal for temporarily while they were doing construction on the south side. This was a couple of months later, and you can see some of the structures have started. They worked on the south side and worked north. This is looking upstream with the south side wing walls in place, and a couple of the other bays that are under construction. That's a shot looking downstream. They were going to try a different kind of gate in this. Instead of just having a large radial gate or slide gates, they were using a plate that they would lay down, and they'd have bladders that they would inflate, and that would lift the plate up. So that's just some of the hinges and such they've installed. This was a little bit later. If you notice, the concrete structure for the most southern part is finished, and they're working on the northern wing walls. And if you can see the two corrugated metal pipe or plastic pipes there, the river is being diverted through those now. The water is taken out of the Millrace Canal. It's a little bit different view. And up here there's the control building where they'll have the controls and the compressor that would fill the bladders. In this structure, the concrete work is finished. They're just in the process of installing the gates. And the water is now flowing through the structure. And there's a picture of the large gate that lays down. And in the bay right next to it, there's a smaller version of that, and that shows with the bladder inflated and the plate is lifted to stop the water. And there's the restructured, cleaned up entrance to the Millrace Canal. It's just a picture from downstream, or from upstream looking downstream. There's just a picture. You can see the big plate laying flat here with in the bay next to it, the bladder's inflated and the plate has been lifted up. And this was in May of 2015, the open house. They invited a lot of the locals and state officials down to see the structure. Just a couple other views of it. This is the water flowing into the Millrace Canal. There, the bladders on that large section have been inflated, and that's blocking the water from going down there. So here they have the two bladders, and this gate is down so the water can pass. The river is never totally dewatered at that point, so there's always water there for the fish. Another picture, there's the total view with the control structure finished over here and the structure there. And this was the display they had at the open house. Up here they have the picture of the old structure, and down here is the finished structure. And that's my report. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions?
Did it come in on budget?
They actually turned back about $250,000 to the board. It came in under budget.
Bladders, what's the life on those?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how gun happy they are in Utah County. We were wondering about bullet holes in those things, but I'm guessing they're at least 20 to 30 years. I've seen them used up in the spillway at First Dam in Logan. There's a big bladder in part of the spillway there, so from what I understand, they're pretty durable.
Okay. Anything else? Is there
Very good.
anything from anyone in the audience? If not, do we have a motion for adjourning? Suppose we'll have a second and third and
Second, third,
everything
and
else
fifth.
and everybody else, huh? All right, we'll adjourn the meeting, and thank you to everybody for being here.